Welcome to WeMeet3D, an interactive virtual meeting platform. Team 7 is Anjali, Sindhu, Victoria, Jamima, and Connie. In light of the social distancing regulations imposed due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we created an online communication application with a 3D virtual environment. Most online meeting and video conferencing platforms currently on the market have very little interactivity, and it is common for users to feel more and more fatigued and disengaged with video conferencing over time. We want to help users feel more connected to the people they are meeting by making the meetings more interactive and more fun while still incorporating audio and video features. Users can use their virtual avatars to walk and look around within an interesting virtual space and walk up to other users to engage in audio and video chat.
This is Jamima, and for my part in the project, I worked primarily on the front end of the app. This included creating the basic UI menu framework along with Connie, as well as designing 2 of the 3 meeting rooms used in the app. Connie and I will now walk you through what you will see when you first play the game. When the game starts, the player will enter into the welcome scene where he or she will click enter to enter into the character customization scene. This part of the UI was designed by Victoria and Anjali. The user will have the option of selecting the character they want to play with. Currently, there are 4 options that the user can choose from. When the user selects a character, he or she will then be led to the main menu. In the main menu, the user will be prompted to either join an existing meeting or create a new meeting. Connie will now walk you through the next steps of the game.
To host a meeting, go to the Create a Meeting menu. This menu allows you to choose between 3 different meeting rooms: a lush forest, a snazzy conference room, or the surface of the moon. Enter a username to identify yourself. The room code and password are generated automatically. Use the Copy to Clipboard button to copy a meeting invitation that you can send to your meeting participants. Then click to enter the meeting. If you're participating in a meeting hosted by someone else, use the Join a Meeting menu. Enter the room code and password that you received from the meeting host. Enter your username, and join the meeting. Once you have entered a meeting as a host or participant, you are free to walk around the meeting room and interact with other people in the meeting. This is the Moon meeting room. To create this meeting room, I created a custom terrain and added rocks and boulders and an Earthrise skybox to really set the scene. All of these assets were imported for free from the Unity Asset Store. Wow. Would you look at that Earthrise? One more component of the UI is the Pause menu, which lets you access the controls for the voice, video, and text chat functionality. We'll demonstrate these features in just a moment. We wanted our end product to look as professional as possible, so we invested plenty of time into the graphic design aspects of the project. Our UI menus include a custom-made background gradient and logo, and a simple unified interface design to maximize ease of use. Now, Jamima will show you the other 2 meeting rooms.
Along with the UI menus, I also created 2 of the 3D rooms, which I will show you now. This is actually the second forest room that I had to create because the first one was too dense for the character to navigate in. All of the assets created in the scene and the conference room scene are from the asset store, but putting them together was a bit of a challenge and very time consuming, especially when the characters were added into the scene. I had to also add colliders to prevent the characters from penetrating into the trees. I also designed the conference room that is seen here. This scene was deliberately created so that the characters can sit down. Designing this scene was the most time-consuming aspect of the project for me because there were a lot of scaling issues to deal with, and there were also a lot of problems once the character was put into the game.
For the networking part, we are using Mirror API. So it is a high-level networking API for Unity, which supports different transports. It also helps us have the server and client in one project. This is a little graph showing how the server-client connections work. So as you can see, we are using a dedicated server approach with multiple clients connecting to one server. This enables any client to either create or join a game, which means that we can have multiple meetings happening at the same time. And as of right now, my laptop is acting as a server, so the clients need to connect using my public IP. And our next step would be to host the server online. This image shows what happens in the background when a client is trying to connect to a server. It first runs an auto-connect method, which helps the client connect if there is an active server. And if there is no server running, it prompts the user to start the server. In this case, we're using TCP and the port 7777, and we are forwarding that port from my firewall. That way, the only thing that my teammates need to do is to have my IP address and then connect from anywhere. So eventually my IP would be replaced by an IP provided by a hosting service such as AWS, and then we would be able to connect to the meeting without me explicitly starting it. And finally, we'll show you a little bit about the project flow that we have going on. As I mentioned before, the client is able to join or create a meeting. So if we decide to create a meeting, a random ID and password are generated, and the meeting information is saved in the list. And if the user chooses to join a meeting, we validate the ID and password, and then we check if the meeting has started or not. And if the meeting has not started, then the user has to wait until the host starts it. But if it has started, the user automatically joins the meeting. And Mira has been also really helpful because at the start of the meeting, we can check and only assign the client with authority the ability to turn on their camera or control their movement, for example.
For the communication part of our project, we use Agora, which is a real-time engagement platform that allows for users to interact with each other on different screens. We use the Agora video, voice, and real-time messaging SDKs for Unity in order to incorporate this into our project. For the audio and video implementation, here is an API call sequence diagram of how a basic voice and video call works between users. Once a user opens Unity and joins a meeting room in our app, the IRTC engine will be then called and initialized. Once this is successful, the Join a Channel API will be called based on a channel name given, and the Join Channel Success Handler callback will be then sent. If another user joins within the same channel name, the onUserJoined handler callback will be called, which will then allow users to see each other within the same channel name. If a user decides to leave the meeting, the Leave Channel API function will be called, removing the user in the meeting room and destroying the IRTC engine. For the text chat implementation, this diagram shows how a basic text chat works between the sender and a receiver. Once a user creates and enters a meeting room, the onJoin success callback will be then sent. The user will then be able to send messages with the real-time messaging SDK and receive send message result callbacks if this is successful. For the receiver side, when the sender sends a message to the receiver will get an onMessage received callback to show the messages, and vice versa.
For the characters, we made use of Mixamo. Mixamo contains ready-to-use high-quality 3D characters. These characters are automatically rigged to a human skeleton. They also offer a wide range of variety of body character animations. In addition, these characters are easily exportable for Unity, which made it convenient for us to use in our project. Okay, now let's look at the character animation. So we have a standing, idle, and walking animation implemented over here, as you can see. So depending on which arrow key I'm using, front, back, left, right, I can move my character. We've also added proper colliders to the character so that she doesn't fall into infinite gravity and is stopped by the walls. We also have sitting implemented for our character, so if she comes in contact with a chair, a menu will pop up saying whether you want to sit down or no. If I select yes, the character will sit down, and you can see in the scene view over here that our character is properly seated on the chair. Once I'm done, I can just move away from the chair and continue walking through the room. If I don't want to sit, that's an option as well. So if she comes in contact with a chair, I select no. The character does not sit down and we can still continue to move.
Now let's look at a meeting demo.